Mrs. Uzoma Ben-Ude. Mrs. Uzoma Ben-Ude is an HR professional with almost 2 decades worth of experience from multinationals in the FMCG industry. Her wealth of experience in HR spans business partnering, reward, talent management, performance management, people strategy development, industrial relations, and she's also a career coach, amongst other things. Some of the organizations that she's worked with and carried out projects in include Guinness, Nigeria. She's also done a stint with MTN and some other manufacturing organizations. Currently, Mrs. Ben-Ude is the HR director for Perfetti Van Melle. We're excited to have you here, ma'am. Let us see your face if you don't mind, and welcome to this webinar. You're on mute.
Okay, thank you very much, Emanuela. Hope you can see me. You can. Okay, great. And all the participants, you're welcome to this session. As the topic goes, reward strategies in the new world. So I'll be taking you through the fundamentals of how you can come up with a reward strategy. We would also be looking at what this new world really is all about. I'm sure we've heard so much of that since yesterday. I've been in some of the sessions myself, and they've been really very, very useful. You know, gained a lot of knowledge from that. So we would also be going through some of that, and then hopefully at the end, you would have opportunity to share some of your thoughts and also ask some questions that you have at the end. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen so that we can run through the presentation, and then if we're ready, then we can start. So, in terms of outline, we're going to look at the realities of the new world. Then we're going to look a bit at what exactly is total reward. Then how do we implement total reward going forward. Okay, so first of all, I'm sure we've had this conversation on and on since yesterday. There have been a lot of conversations talking about the new world, what are the characteristics of the new world, you know, what is changing, what has changed, and what will continue to change as far as our new world it is. I mean, so the world as we knew it, I mean, before the pandemic has been disrupted, you know, and we've been foisted with new realities. I mean, that is what we now call our new world. So some of the words that we used to use before, we talk about the VUCA world, you know, it is actually now that it is having so much more meaning to us. So we have a world that is volatile, is uncertain, is filled with so much complexity, and it keeps evolving. So as it is, even today, we cannot say that you know, we can fully define how things will be going forward. Things are still evolving. We've had a few businesses that maybe because of the line of businesses that they do, have had a feast in this period. I mean, we're on Zoom right now. That's one of the companies that you would understand have really had a good time because everybody is now on Zoom. You know, everything is on Zoom. Connections, meetings, everything is on Zoom. So just to give you an example of some businesses that have had a feast, so social media, etc. But then it's been a time of famine for most businesses. So for most businesses, we're hearing about job losses, unemployment on the rise across. I mean, every country is impacted in this situation. And some of the other characteristics, we have home setups. You know, people are working from home. Schools are closed. People are, you know, having to give care to some of their loved ones because some of the support that you would normally get are no longer available. There are pay freezes, pay cuts. People are being forced to go on leave without pay, and a lot of these things have become the order of the day. So for the employees, they live in a period of fear, of insecurity. You know, there's a lot of demotivation, mental stress. I mean, you hear a lot of conversation now talking about mental health, well-being, you know, etc. So those are the realities of the new world that we have found ourselves in. Okay, specifically, let's talk about reward. And what exactly is a total reward strategy? So total reward strategy, it's a system that looks at the complete well-being of the employee. So it's not just about the money. So the monetary part obviously is a key part of it, but you're also looking at what benefits you're offering to the employees. You're looking at what development programs you have in place, and you're ensuring that the whole environment, the whole work environment is motivating for the individuals to actually be able to give in their best. So this totality is actually what makes up what we call the total reward structure. So if you look at this slide, it gives you some insight into what we call total reward. So there's compensation, benefits, engagement, performance management, work-life balance, professional development, the public fund. So talk about your pension, some statutory funds, they all make up the total reward. And I particularly like this framework by the Hay Group, and that is the framework under which we're going to be looking at what is the best reward strategy for this period. So it looks at, there are two questions at the two ends of the circle. So the first part is, what are the needs of the company? So at every time for HR professionals, you need to always ask yourself, what are the needs of the company? Because companies go through different phases. Companies have different goals and objectives at different times. So the needs of the company would always be different at different times and depending on the phase of the company. But you need to be able to itemize and analyze that and clearly say, okay, these are the needs of the company. This is a growing company, so it needs people who will come in with experience, or it needs young salespeople who will come in with so much energy. You need to be very clear in your head about the needs of the company. And then the other question is, what are the needs of the employees? So these employees that you have defined based on the need of the company, what will be the needs of those kind of employees? So if you have a lot of young people, for instance, you will be looking at the kind of reward mix that will speak to them. So this is actually like a total reward framework. What are the needs of the company? What are the needs of the employees? And linking it is then, what is the business strategy? What is your people strategy, which is meant to help you deliver the business strategy? And then what is the total reward strategy that is meant to deliver that people strategy? So they come in layers. And then to your right, we have what are the business results that have been called out? How do you get those business results delivered? So your return on investment, employee engagement. So these are all the elements that make up the total reward structure. And as a HR person, you need to be able to then come up with a strategy that will deliver what the business requires, because you're not existing on your own as a HR professional. Where you're existing to be able to deliver the business results. So you can see within the circle of with some of the elements that we have seen in the previous slides, you've got your guaranteed pay, the variable pay, Okay, looks like I went off at some point.
You're back now, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's basically what this slide does. So this slide gives you, so if it is just this slide you have as a HR person, you should be able to do a good diagnostics of what are the needs of the company that you work for, and what do they require to be able to, what do they require in terms of people, and then based on the kind of people that you need, what would be the suitable kind of reward that they would require. Okay, so we will attempt to answer those two questions, relating it to the current situation that we find ourselves, and to a very large extent what we term as the new world. Okay, so currently, if we were to define what are the needs of companies right now, companies are under enormous cost pressure as business performance has been impacted by the current pandemic and things happening around. And companies need to survive today, so while you're doing all your medium-term, long-term plans, companies are actually getting into a survival mode. They need to survive for today. Companies, on the other hand, also need to preserve their strategic assets and key relationships, because you don't want to be starting from the scratch. So things are challenging, but you need to preserve those assets and relationships that you think are very key to you. So be it your key customers, your suppliers, and your key employees. So at this point, one of the things that we're going to talk about is, what do you also do for the group of people that we call your critical talents? So there are people who you might be comfortable to let go at this time, but there are people who you must hold on to because the company must survive post the pandemic. So companies need people that will help them navigate through this period. So people with the right skills, that are agile and can take calculated risks to keep the business going. So the company needs some key people that will keep the business going, help them navigate through this period. There are skills required at this time. There'll be risks to be taken. There's a lot of agility that we hear about. And so companies need those kind of people at this time. So as a HR person, you need to be asking yourself, what is going to deliver for us, this kind of people. I see a few people are raising their hand. Is there some, to ask a question, or are they trying to signal anything, Emanuela?
So based on the introduction, everyone will hold on. Yes, they'll indicate by the raise of hands, but when you are done, we will get them to ask their questions so we don't interrupt you.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so the other bit is, what are the needs of the employees? So right now, given what we have defined at the beginning to say this is our new world, employees need the assurance that their health, safety, and well-being will be taken care of by the company in the course of duty. So let's, you have people who still need to go about their duties, be it essential services. One of the examples really is the health sector, where we hear a lot of things about health workers complaining that, they haven't been provided sufficient PPE equipment, some things, some benefits, and some tools they actually need for their work has not been provided. Those are things that people don't want to toy with at this time, because they need stability to be able to do the work. Employees need to understand the direction of the business and what is going to be the impact on their jobs, income, and family. So we're talking about people being under mental stress. A lot of it is because of insecurity. People are not sure what is going to happen in the future. So there's a lot of issues around, what's going to happen to my job? If it happens to me, I have so many people who are depending on me, family, there's a chain of people who depend on you. That whole impact is what people are not sure of. And so this is a time when we'll come to the solution to say businesses need to communicate more than any other time at this time to let people know exactly what is happening in the business, whatever direction the business decides to take, because employees need to feel that sense of security to be able to continue in their job. Employees want revised goals and performance expectations in line with the reality. So we had, so let's take a typical salesperson. You had your sales target, given for the year, assuming everything was constant and normal. And now you have a lockdown. So the reality around you, the first messaging is, I'm not going to be able to meet this goal. But if then the expectation that the employee feels is that he still needs to deliver the same goal because his incentives, his sales performance goals, everything is attached to those initial expectations, then you're not going to get the best from employees. So employees want revised goals, performance expectations in line with the reality of the time. Employees want to be supported with the new ways of working to ensure they can remain productive, but not taking so much cost from them. So now we're talking about working from home. We know the challenges of working from home. There's a power supply issue, especially if you're in Nigeria and this part of the world. You need to set up an internet system that works, which is also can be a challenge. You need to also manage the home front. So there are some people that schools are closed, so there's a lot of effort that needs to go into working seamlessly from home for those that can work from home. And then for those that still need to be out there, they need all the support and the tools they can get to be able to work better. That employees feel challenged to do better with less, but at least they would want to be recognized for the extra they are doing. And that's one of the things that I hear constantly from the salespeople in my company, where they constantly say, oh, we need more recognition. Oh, we're doing so much. We're out there. We're still out there in the field. We're selling. We're doing all that we can to bring in the numbers, even though we might not meet the goals and targets set, but it's taking a lot from us to even deliver what we can. Okay, so looking at these two sides now, we've looked at the needs of the company. We've looked at the needs of the employees. Let's begin to then look at what we think will be important in terms of reward strategy in this new world. So I'm going to box it up in different buckets. So first is, there needs to be a lot of focus on employee engagement. If you're looking at your reward strategy, that intangible reward, that aspect that you talk about needs to be dialed up at this time for you to have your employees performing in this new world. So there needs to be a lot of communications with employees during certain times. So business communications, leadership engagement needs to be at its peak at this time. For you, it's a very intangible part of reward, but you actually find out that you could lose employees who you are paying money just because they are not sure where the company is going to. They are not sure whether their efforts are recognized. They're not sure what will happen next. So all that you're doing with money and financial reward might be messed up if you're not focusing on employee engagement. Secondly, you need to look at your policies at this time. Are your policies relevant to the now? Your sick leave policy, your remote working policy, your retention policy for your critical talents, hazard work policies. So those kind of key policies that are more relevant now than before, you need to review those policies and ensure that they are effective, ensure that they address the times that we're in. We're coming from a time where remote working was probably a choice, and so the person who opted to work remotely didn't really need the company to support him or her. But now we're at a point where it is mandatory. So the company needs to think about what it can do to support people to work from home. Do they have all the tools required? Can they set up a proper seats and working conditions at home? All these are things that then become your business now, because we have all been forced into this new world. It is no longer a case of people doing remote working by choice. So what is even your whole health policy needs to be overhauled to then look after people. So working, incidents at work is no longer just about what happens within the confines of your office, because people are working from home. So if someone has a back pain from not sitting in a good chair, is actually part of a work hazard that has happened. So you need to expand your policies to be sure they are relevant. You need to look for some employee assistance programs that you need to offer. So for people's mental health, financial well-being, any kind of short-term support that you can give to employees at this time, I'm sure it will be valued even more than a cash award. And this is not a time where, as HR practitioners and business leaders, you do not implement things correctly, because every move that you make is given an interpretation. All salaries used to be paid on the 10th or on the 20th, and they've come in 2-3 days later. People are going to interpret it to mean so many things. Some are going to say, oh, maybe the company is actually going down. Oh, they had to struggle to pay salaries. Oh, or my name was not on the list of those that were paid. So I'm not even sure I'm going to be paid. So there'll be so much speculation going on that everything that forms part of your communication needs to be handled. And then time to you have a recognition program, because you need to put in a lot of energy into the company, harness whatever achievements that have been done, and use it to create energy for more success for the organization. That is what a recognition program is. So if you're celebrating heroes that have gone out of their way even in this period to achieve one thing or the other people get that message, and are able to replicate the same achievement across. So to say, you put in energy into the organization and you're helping the organization achieve more success across. So that is for your intangible reward. The other part we'll look at for the variable pay elements. So a lot of companies have sales compensation plans where your sales force have to continue to produce results even in this time. So this is a time for you to look at, as I said before, look at your goals, ensure that those targets make sense for the period that we're in. You need to provide some flexibility into your goal setting at this time. Once you give people goals that they cannot achieve, the next thing that happens is that they get demotivated. So you be able to provide flexible short-term goals that they can go for, achieve, and then it encourages them to go for more. And also know that you can be able to adjust your sales target, because at the end of the day, it's not play the role it should play. So we always need to have that at the top of our minds. So the same thing also goes for another incentive program you have. Some companies have long-term incentives, and a lot of that are attached to stock equity, the performance of the company in stock, in the stock markets, etc. This is a time for you to look at that to say, if there are declining equity values across, is this still the best way for you to measure? So automatically, the person who has a long-term incentive knows that I'm not going to earn anything out of this, because instead of the stock value to go up, they're actually coming down. So no matter how hard I work, no matter how strong I perform, I'm probably not going to get anything at the end of the day. So it's a good time for you to revisit it, know how you can change some of those mix that you use, introduce more cash rewards, and be able to assess proper performance that is not just based on the growth of a particular company's stock, etc. And then for short-term incentives, as we have said, incentives are meant to motivate. So if people don't feel motivated because the goals are too stretching, they're probably going to lose out. And then another thing that is worth considering is actually introducing collective bonus plans at this time. Collective bonus plans is where people are rewarded generally. Some people call it like all-for-one bonus. So if the company meets its target, everybody is paid an incentive. And that is because at this time, the levels of challenges will differ from place to place. And you want everyone to take advantage of the opportunities they see in the areas where they operate. So if you can have somebody in an area that is extremely challenging, he might not be able to meet his goals. but you have another one who identifies an opportunity. So collectively, you want to drive a collective business goal to say, I want everyone to meet their target. I want the company totally to meet its target. So even if individuals cannot, but some other person can make up. So once I see an opportunity in my own area, I know that I can make up, because the company bonus plan right now is collective. So we meet a particular company performance target and all of us get paid. No, that is one of the things we should be looking at doing at this time. Okay, so I'll look at the guaranteed pay element, which we all know that's the one everybody's comfortable with, is cash. For me, that's at the end. And for me, the guiding principles at this time is you should pay people a fair wage for the work they do. Do not take advantage of people because of the times. I mean, people might seem like they don't have an option right now, but I'm sure you don't want people leaving the organization as soon as they have an option, and that will happen. And when then the company cannot do that, you need to communicate with clarity when you cannot. So if you need to have pay cuts, if you need to have pay freezes where ordinarily there should have been an increase for people, you need to be having those conversations with people with real figures of how the company is performing and why the company is no longer able to meet its obligations. So you don't take it that people don't have an option, and just treat them anyhow, but you need to do just the right thing. But then the second key part is you need to identify critical talent and put resources behind their retention. You need to be clear on who are those that are critical to the organization now and in the future. And those are people you don't want to lose. Those are people you want to ring fence. You want to do, so the limited resources that you have, as the quote that says, put your money behind where your mouth is. So you need to put your resources behind those group of people, because they're actually the people that will take your company to the next level. And this time is also a time where you start to think about things differently. Are there part-time jobs? Are there roles that do not need to be full-time? So there are some positions that, quite frankly, you can be asking yourself, if you have some roles, secretarial roles, some kind of roles that really do not have to be full-time, it's better that you have a part-time contract with someone and you pay the person well for the number of hours the person works, than to take advantage of the person and the person still has to work full-time. Okay, we're nearly there. So looking at what other considerations you can make as you start to implement. First is, remember the concept of personalization. Reward in the new world is not a one-size-fits-all. So people are unique, they have specific needs, and so when it comes to employee benefits and what really matters to people, you need to offer people what matters for them. So the concept of personalization is very important, especially for your critical talent and those you want to retain in the company. Also, flexibility, having a right mix between benefits that you give directly to employees and those that you actually provide cash for. A typical one that has been in the trend for a while now is the issue of having cars for senior positions or giving cash option for people to buy cars of their own, and so you need to be able to balance it, have some flexibility to say, at the end of the day, cost-wise as a business, you're spending the same thing. So which one gives you better leverage with the person that you're offering the benefit to? You need to be able to decide that and be a bit more flexible. However, while being flexible, remember, flexibility also brings in more complexity. So you need to create the right balance between when to be flexible and when to just have a simple process. Because when you have several different benefits, for different people, there's a lot more complexity. There's a lot of things you need to manage. So you need to create that balance of when flexibility versus simplicity. And then you need to consider the multi-generational workforce and be sure that you have something for every generation. I like to look at this image that shows you the different generations we have, at least as defined now, the baby boomers, Gen X, Gen millennials, Gen Z, who are the latest ones that we have now. So you've got a multi-generational workforce. You need to be sensitive to their needs, even in this new world. Some will have more challenge with working from home. I mean, some will have more challenge with everything going virtual. How do you support them, better than the millennials and Gen Zs who are asking why work hasn't been like this all the while? So just this slide just provides a bit of differentiation to those different generations that we looked at. So I mean, there's benefit in having a multi-generational workforce because they bring different things. Your baby boomers and Gen X bring some stability that you need in companies, where the millennials and Gen Z want everything jumping around every time. And then for them, they're talking about career opportunities, self-development opportunities. They want mentoring programs. They want to be part of projects. These are the things that really matter to them. You have baby boomers who are getting close to retirement, looking for all the insurance schemes, retirement benefits, savings options, things that will help them for their life outside after work. Then for Gen X, that's the period where people want to define their lifestyle. They probably want, I want money to buy the type of car I want. I want to buy a house. I want some form of support or the other. Is there any discount with that we have signed with any company? So those are like the benefit preferences for different generations. So it's also something that you need to be mindful of. And so at the end, what we're talking about is business performance, and it's being able to engage our people even in this challenging time, because we need those people to engage our customers to get the job done, and then business performance can pull through this period and hopefully continue to move forward. And so that's the link between having your employees who are engaged and satisfied with their reward, and also how it impacts business performance. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Wow. Quite on time and very enriching. Well done, ma'am. You've done justice to reward strategies. It means that we need to not just look at the money side, but you are primarily looking at the employee side to determine the money side or the benefit side. Quite enriching. We are grateful to you, Mrs. Ben-Ude. We've got 2 questions here, and then we would see if hands come up for further questions. The first person, Dunke, here says, how do we as HRs take a bolder and smarter approach to rewards? Why is a median total reward strategy hurting companies today? And what do people want to attract and retain value most? What do people want to attract and retain value the most? How can HR align all of these to organizational values?
Okay.
There are like 3-4 questions.
Yeah, so it feels like there are many questions that have been
stringed. So she says, how do we take a bolder, smarter approach to rewards? Okay. And I would let you
do that. I think for HR people, the first thing is understand your business, like I said. Sometimes HR people, we can live in a bubble of our own and not, the company doesn't feel like we're fully engaging it. We need to understand the business of the business, understand how money is made, so that when you're also having conversations, you're having conversations that are data-based and that clearly speaks to what needs to be able to get more performance. So you're just looking at, I want to throw parties to people because, TGIF is what is happening now, so I need to be able to do that. But you need to be able to connect it to the business performance that you want to drive as a result of that. So if you can see examples of, I want to have a recognition program that will, drive more engagement, that will help people to go and to deliver more results, then the CEO or the business leader suddenly sees how whatever you want to do is going to deliver results for him, and that makes him more open to those suggestions. That would be my take for that.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. The second question here says, it now looks quite expensive to run and manage businesses due to the pandemic, and businesses are now looking for cost-cutting areas. How can these needs, business needs and employee needs, be met while cost-cutting or cost-saving is in place?
Okay. I think they are, we need to live within the realities that we have. So if the business is under cost pressure, employees also need to understand that the business is under cost pressure. And one of the things that HR people can do is going through a time of cost cutting is not necessarily about people cost first or only, but you need to guide the organization to also look at other areas where it has fat. So there are things across the whole business that are also costing the business. So we're looking at completely saying we need to bring down our costs, but we're looking at all the areas where we can bring down our costs, as well as, okay, for our people costs, are we also carrying fat there? Or sometimes sometimes we are duplicating roles because we don't want to have performance conversations or someone that is not doing well. And we also allow some of those fats built in by us as HR people. So there also comes that time when we then need to, we're now forced to do something about it.
So I picked out the need to guide organizations on different areas where cost cutting can take place, not just around staff cost itself. Fantastic. Now, Chinedu asks, how do we sustain employee motivation and engagement in organizations where salary slashes and redundancies are inevitable?
Okay, I think
reality.
for this, yes, reality. Yes. And one of the skills that HR people also need to have is change management. Because we would always continue to manage changes through the organization. You can actually go through a redundancy exercise, and the company can come out stronger and performing better. It's all about how you treat the people that are leaving, in terms of confidentiality, in terms of valuing them, in terms of what payments and what benefits they get. And that assures those that are staying that, look, the company has to do this because it necessarily needs to do it to be able to survive. But we're making sure that everybody is taken care of, whether you're going to be in the organization or you're going to be outside the organization. And if you follow up with those communications properly done, you would find out that a lot of times you leave everybody, energized. Even those that are leaving, leave with smiles. They don't always have to leave feeling bad, at that time. So it's about how we manage it. It's a change. So you need to be able to manage it skillfully as a HR person.
Okay, so change management skills are required. How you treat the employees who have to leave, also important. And then communication is the most important in this environment. I hope that all questions have been answered to your understanding for Chinedu, for Dunke. Okay, Dunke has another question here. On rewards, what do you do when an organization fails to reward its people? And should one take it straight up that the culture of such organization is bad?
Okay, it would have been good to understand fully what you mean by fail to reward its people. That sounds a bit generic. So is it that you think they are not paying at the level where they should be paying, or are there benefits that maybe others are offering that they are not offering? So there could be different aspects of it when you say fail to reward its people. But then I would also say the honor still lies with the HR person, who needs to have a lot of data, including peer data at this time, because there are some conversations you need to have with CEOs, with business leaders to say, look, these are the companies where we're looking to get data, to get people from. This is what they are paying, what they are offering. We're not sitting well within that mix. So we need to do something about it.
Fantastic, great. Thank you, ma'am. We have Kate Chuku here asking, how do you keep employees engaged when they have been placed on compulsory leave without pay till further notice. Well.
Okay. So leave without pay, you can say one of the things that I said today, where companies are possibly leave without pay. It's actually some form of pay cut, really, because what it is for a particular period they're not paying the people salaries. You know, so for me, the guidance that we need to be providing to business leaders is: are we making a knee-jerk reaction? You know, are we completely at the point where we need to do that? There are some industries really that are in a different place. If I think about the airlines industry, and those that completely have to stop work, you know, they might have to do that. But like I said, engage people, communicate, and keep in touch with them, especially if you're looking at them coming back when things improve for the company.
So I like that part where you say, especially if you're looking at them coming back, you need to keep them engaged, you need to communicate. Because if you say till further notice and they don't hear from you, they could as well just think they don't have any job and not willing to come back, even if things get back. We appreciate you so much, Mrs. Ben-Ude. You've done justice to reward strategies. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, everyone who's been here. I hope it's been worth your time. We still have about 3 other sessions that would happen after this. We appreciate you. Thank you. And we hope that you join other sessions that are coming around. I see an anonymous question. Okay, we have a minute before our end time, ma'am. I hope you don't mind. The question from an anonymous attendee says, in a situation where HR is also put on the compulsory leave without pay, how should such be dealt with? Wow. Okay.
HR is part of the employee that way. So HR is not different from others. When things happen around, they also affect HR people. So as a HR person, you're the first person that needs to be ready for that thing that you tell others. You know, you're the first person that needs to be ready for that. So if you're telling people learn skills for life, learn things you can do when paid employment, you know, is not there, you should be doing that for yourself too and getting ready.
Word, absolutely. Thank you. So preparedness on all fronts for HR and for all employees, just be prepared. We appreciate you again and again, ma'am. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed this session and I am quite sure that everyone else has. We thank you for your wealth of knowledge. Thank you everyone else who has been here. We're getting on the next session in a minute. Please join us. Thank you, ma'am. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.